now to introduce our first speaker, Matthew Ward, from our EV Summit partner, EY. A note for our audience, do remember to send in those questions for Matthew with the Q&A tab. Matthew, thank you for joining us today. I'll hand over to you to give us your insights.
Great, thanks Aid, and yeah, really looking forward to this panel discussion with colleagues, and I think we've got a great selection of industry, academic and policy perspectives on how we can go to decarbonising aviation, which, as you say, is challenging, but it's also critical. So if I can just sort of summarise, aviation's role, the ambition of the industry, some of those technology solutions and the challenges and opportunities. And I think just to start, I'd say, despite COVID and the impact it's had on society and on the aviation aerospace industry, aviation is going to play a vital role connecting people. We expect this will return. And more importantly, I think we've seen, the value of aviation through COVID in the supply of critical components and the growth in freight. We're seeing aviation recover. You can witness rapid increases in leisure as restrictions have unblocked. EY's aviation travel recovery tracker, which monitors UK and European travel. We anticipate UK travel will recover to 2019 levels by 2023 as our baseline, with continued growth to 2030. Global travel is going to perform in a similar way. It's going to recover and return to long-term growth. And that's going to be driven by continued prosperity and rising middle classes in emerging markets, and just our human desire to meet friends, family, and business contacts. So it's here to stay, and I think it's got a really vital role to play. IATA, which is the Air Travel Association, recently upgraded its target. It's got an ambition to net zero aviation by 2050. Clearly, that creates technology and infrastructure challenges, and it will require regulatory support and access to funding. The industry has already gone a long way in addressing decarbonisation through fuel efficiency, but it's increasingly important, and it's expected by stakeholders, including customers and passengers. So just to use EY as an example, we achieved carbon neutrality last year, and our goal is net zero by 2025. And business travel is a critical element of our carbon footprint. And as an example, we're going to focus on engaging with our travel providers on their approach to decarbonising travel. More broadly, we know global consumer, from our surveys of global consumer preferences, 43% of consumers want to buy from businesses that benefit society, even if that has a cost implication. So if I just sort of move from there into some of the technology solutions, the engine OEMs and the airframers, the Airbus, Boeings, have got clear strategies for achieving net zero. And I think those broadly are two elements. One is improving the current technology, whether that's the benefit that we're already seeing and will continue to see from more fuel efficient engines, continued improvement in aerodynamics, some of the wing technology that's being developed at the moment, and then focus on air traffic management efficiencies. Additionally, as older aircraft are replaced with newer and more fuel efficient aircraft, this will significantly reduce growth in emissions, notwithstanding increases in air travel. But I think these are only part of the solution, and sort of new fuel sources and the technologies to enable those will be required to achieve net zero. So if I sort of turn to those, I think we've probably got four constituents in that sort of carbon and other emission reduction. So, the key near-term one is sustainable aviation fuel, partnering with carbon offsetting, but then, emerging technologies such as electric and hydrogen power. And there'll be sort of different time points to achieving those. I think, SAF, or sustainable aviation fuel, is the key, most attractive short-term solution. It can be used as a drop-in to current engine technologies, and it is critically important that we can green the existing global fleet. Additionally, more modern engines, Rolls Trent XWB, the UltraFan, are capable of using 100% SAF, which will enable decarbonisation of long-haul travel. Moving on, Airbus has clearly stated, hydrogen is its solution for 2025, and then electric, which I'm sure Rachel and can talk to. But this will reshape aviation, and some of the challenges are going to be around capacity. There's insufficient supply of SAF at the moment, and we need to scale that in a sustainable way. Multiple ways that we can talk about, increased use of renewables, nuclear for green hydrogen. Pricing at the moment is, important. SAF significantly more expensive than kerosene. Technology improvements, economies of scale will enhance that. But also funding is going to be critically important from government, and then the attitude and support from government and regulators to encourage alternative fuels, whether that's carbon pricing in a similar way to some of the renewables pricing. But I think if we get that right, we get a sector which is sustainable and drives the world to a net zero solution. So I'll stop there. But thank you.
Matthew, thanks very, very much indeed for those opening gambit remarks. Super overview of the sector and the dynamics that are unfolding at pace. Some great questions that have come in from our audience now. One on investment and one on regulation. Obviously, these two being very closely aligned with each other. So the first question on regulation from Dale Harrison is: what are the current regulations with regards to biofuels on commercial flights, or are there any at all?
It's a really good question, and I think this is an area where there has to be a lot of emerging work that's being done. So it's a really complicated area, Dale, and I'm not sure that I am qualified from a technology point of view to talk to that, but it depends on the blend of synthetic and kerosene, or sustainable aviation fuel and kerosene, and certain engines are qualified for increasing levels of SAF. So it does depend. I think the blend will increase as you get a natural increase in the number of newer engines on newer aircraft, which will be able to use higher levels of SAF.
Very good, thanks. And now a question on investment in sustainable aviation. Do you think there is enough investment in sustainable aviation, or could more be done to boost this? I suppose there's always more that could be done, but what are your thoughts on that?
I think there is an increasing amount. I think you've seen, if I talk to the urban air mobility market as a really good example where aviation can create a greener, more sustainable city, there's been a huge amount of capital deployed into some of the developers of urban air mobility solutions. I think you're seeing a number of hydrogen, and I'm sure Katya can talk to this, but you've seen the likes of airlines and fuel providers invest in a number of providers of alternative power. What I think is really important is the increased focus from investors on ESG and being able to, and as we translate the financial benefits of ESG, I think that will accelerate capital deployed into sustainable solutions, which will include sustainable aerospace and aviation.
Very good. One more question, because we have 6 speakers today, so we'll keep the questions down to just maybe 2 or 3 per speaker. But I know the sustainability community has an issue around the use of biofuels with the consequential potential for biodiversity loss with the increased agricultural inputs there. So bearing all these factors in mind, do you think that hydrogen is really the most sustainable fuel for the future of aviation? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a really good question. I think in the long term, potentially. In the short term, I think there are, creating SAF which is produced in a sustainable way, so it doesn't divert from fuel from food products, is critically important. Whether renewable energy or nuclear power to create green hydrogen to support the development of synthetic aviation fuel, that I think is a medium-term solution. Longer term, I think hydrogen has got a really strong role to play in this. Again, production of green hydrogen through, for example, nuclear power will be critical to enable that.
Matthew, thanks so much indeed once again for those opening gambit remarks.
Right. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.